I'm joined on the podcast this month by two of our Cumbria Business Growth Hub business mentors, Keith and Jaqui Jackson of Thomas Jardine & Co. And the topic of our conversation today is their new leadership program called Lead It. It's a 10-month program built specifically for founders and family business leaders of independent UK businesses. Welcome to the podcast, both. Can you start off by telling me what inspired you to start Lead It?
Well, I think we've spent an awful long time working with business leaders, and we love founders and family firms in particularly, that independently owned sector. And these leaders have very little time to sometimes step out and lead forward. We are in a very, very crazy turmoil world, and we've been there for quite a while now. The pace of change is rapid, and I think there's an opportunity and a gap for leaders to really step back and build their leadership fitness, build those capacities that can help us lead forward. So we felt that this was the moment that we all needed it. We all need some great leaders with really well equipped with some strong, sound, I suppose, muscles and fitness that can really take them forward.
Yeah, we've always worked with small businesses, medium-sized businesses, and they've always had a direct sense of direction of where they're going, and it's always been fairly firm. But the last sort of 4 or 5 years, you're heading for one port, and that port's disappeared, let alone the port's disappeared, the country's disappeared. And it's time to just refresh your muscle memory so that you can take on things that you did 5-10 years ago with confidence.
Yeah. That's really it in a nutshell. It's kind of developing these. I've always thought that the bedrock of our economic foundations are founder-led and family firms, and they're important. And I think we've got a lot of transition and a lot of change. And if we can equip leaders with some put them together in peer groups and really start unlocking their challenges and build those capacities and the fitnesses, then they're going to be stronger for the future.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's important.
It's hugely important.
Yeah.
Definitely. And you talked about your target audience for this program being running founder-led businesses and family businesses. Why did you choose those groups, and what are the kind of specific leadership challenges, opportunities that a family business might face or a founder-led business might face?
I think the corporate market is really well served in leadership terms. And I think there's lots of access to leadership information. There's lots of sources, there's lots of downloads, there's lots of YouTubes, there's lots of books. But there's something about the founder-led and the family firms that I said with that bedrock of business where they're very busy and possibly feeling a bit unappreciated at this current moment. And it's kind of saying, how can we work with you in your time, in your way, and not in a corporate way? We're not running any kind of corporate program. We're working with them where they're at, to help them move or grow or build the confidence to take the steps that they want and need to take. So that's why for us, they're really important to just give them some of the challenge that helps them grow.
I suppose their style of leadership is very personal. It's very human.
Yeah.
It brings in that human element that they can't walk away from the business. The business is part of them. In the corporate world, you move on to the next corporate job or whatever. And most of the leadership books are designed for people of that ilk. And we're translating the good stuff from there into stuff that is really usable to people that are leading with the human touch.
Yeah, yeah. So we're kind of taking Harvard's leadership fitness capacities. We were looking at all of that research and thinking, right, okay, that makes so much sense. If you leaned into your strengths, if you really knew what your strengths were and you leaned into them, what could that look like and what could that be like? How do you find balance when you've got so many competing demands going on around you? And how do you retain flexibility when what you need is stability, but you've got to be equipped to move and flex? And then endurance. What are the triggers to help us move forward? Are we aware of our stress indicators that will block us? Are we spending enough time on ourselves? Are we going out enough? Are we spending time with the family? It's really balancing all of these things and really taking a deep dive into their world and how they're using them and how they can improve that so that you become more confident and you become fitter, stronger to take it on because the rate of change isn't going to slow. How are we sort of resilient enough to do that? And I thought building those leadership fitness capacities really resonated.
And it's something that you can't do in a 4-day, go away, fix it, and that's it, you done. You need to spend time developing.
Yeah. I think time with your peer groups, that's why we've made it 10 months rather than a 3-day course or a 4-day course, is how do you change the behaviours over time, the things that you've got used to doing the way you do it? How do you break those behaviours if they aren't serving you well? So it's over time with a peer group, and there is only 12 per cohort, but of great businesses that just leaders that want to be different and build some
and understand
capacity.
each other.
Yeah.
Understand the pressures of leading an independent business.
Yeah, because it is personal. If you're founder-led or your family business, it's personal. It's leading with a personal touch.
Yeah.
So anything that's human-centered, the problems are real. Your approaches can be very different. So
you're responsible for your leadership decisions. You are responsible for them, and nobody outside of you understands the pressures you are under at that moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's one of the really interesting things about this is that, there's lots of leadership education out there. But I haven't seen a lot that is specifically aimed at family businesses. You're both running a family business and you've got a lot of experience in that sort of world. Are you drawing on your experiences to sort of craft this program?
Yeah, we're drawing on our own lived experience, as well as one of my roles in the past was head of family business engagement at Lancaster University. So you got to really look from a research angle across the world. Family businesses are the most successful business form across the world. So what's happening in family firms? They tend to get a lot of negative press, but they are really very, very good, stable businesses out in communities. But they can be difficult. Personal relationships are difficult when you're not in business together. So it's kind of you take those personal ways and those personal challenges and add some structure, some business structure to that, to have, I suppose, considered challenging conversations with each other, but they get to an outcome rather than a dispute. So, we know how those work.
And it's the same for founders. I mean, Dom and Kerry that we're working with found their business together, and it's that personal relationship. You never go away from the business because you are in the business. You are the business.
Yeah.
You can.
Experience.
Yeah. It must be difficult to just sit down at the dinner table at the end of a long day and not discuss what you've both been immersed in all day. Yeah.
Different families cope with it in different ways.
And they do.
It's not dictating that this is the way you do it as a family business, or this is the way you do it as a founder. This is the way you do it that works for you and your family.
Yeah, and there are strategies to help you unlock problems in a different way. So I always find it a shame if we lose a good business because personalities can't get on. It's worth developing some leadership skills and capacities to, sort of separate out the business from the family in some way, to operate them both together in a bit more harmony.
Yeah.
There are ways of doing that. And that's what we would like to share, I suppose.
To help.
Yeah.
So getting onto the program itself, it's over 10 months and there's a lot involved. Can you just explain to us how does it actually work?
That's a good one. It's kind of cohorts of 12. And as Keith mentioned, we're partnering with Kerry and Dom Doig that own the Halcyon Club on Ullswater. So that's a bespoke performance retreat for leaders. It's built purposefully for leadership and a leadership retreat. And it happens to be on our doorstep and it's brilliant. It's completely done for that purpose. So we start there with a 2.5-day induction and we're going to only focus on leadership. You, the leader. So it's quite challenging because it's very reflective. It's kind of, this is about you, the leader, and where you want to be and what good looks like for you. And then we dovetail in lots of elements around outdoor experiences, outdoor challenges with Stoked Luke. So about performance, we will do some disc profiling. So that's that, analysing you across many metrics that Kerry will do for us. Then we've got agitation sessions, and we've deliberately called them agitating sessions because we want business leaders to come in and just sort of shake the pot a little bit. So these will be online. There's a mixture of in-person and online, that they've got lived experience from multiple angles, whether, they understand what a disruptor founder looks like and behaves like. What do founders want to achieve? Is it an exit plan? Is it a rapid growth and an exit, or is it a rapid growth into buyout, or what do they want to achieve? Then the family firms, we've got multiple directors that look at family angles, that just agitate and help us think through some of the things that they've come across.
That you're not the first person to come across a really nicky problem.
Yeah, it is going to be challenging. We want leadership to be challenged, because if it's all a bit comfortable, we're not actually learning anything. So it's kind of got.
If we don't upset you over 10 months, we've not done the job right.
But there's something about that. Then we've got leader spaces, which are peer groups. That's where we use action learning, and we really unlock problems, real life problems in their businesses currently. So it's very much the whole program is designed to take action in a relatively safe space, but you will be challenged in that space. So you're actually moving your business forward every time we meet, every time we discuss. There's always an action, because the premise is, if you don't do anything differently as a result of what you've read or seen or absorbed, nothing's changed.
It's a bit like going to the gym and just looking at the machines and not using them.
Yeah. There's not a lot of point, in driving to the car park and walking around the gym.
Sitting in the sauna for 10 minutes and going, oh, that was a big session.
Yeah.
Going home again.
Yeah. It is about those, and it kind of then those Harvard principles that dovetail right the way through it. And we use our one-to-one coaching. So we've got coaches on board as well to work one-to-one with people on the areas that they believe they would like to develop more. What would help them now? What will help them in the future?
This isn't about producing 12 similar leaders. This is about producing humans that lead in the way that suits them and their business.
Yeah. And there is no dissertation to write. You don't have to write a theoretical piece. This is very much based on working on change within your business. It won't suit everybody, because you've got to be at a point where something needs to change. That it's not really for everybody. If everything's brilliant in your garden at the moment, then it's not for you. But if there's something that you would like to change, then this might be for you. If
there's an external force that wasn't there before that you need to change because of it, it's for you. If your team has changed dramatically, then it's for you.
Or if you keep, as many leaders do, keep getting pulled back into the day-to-day, and we haven't got time to really look at what's going on around us. As we said, that pace of change is so rapid. What are we missing? What that we need to be spending time on? What's the opportunity that comes out of all of this change that we're not seeing because we haven't got time? So it's definitely a pull out to see where you want to go next and what that looks like.
And then help you get there.
Yeah. Or it could be a generational change in a business, where you've got a new leader coming through, or an exiting leader that might want to exit sooner than they had planned. That kind of thing. There's lots of disruptive change.
I'm just looking at the Lead It team on your website, and there's some really amazing business leaders, figures in our business community and further afield on there. And some of them have got their roles under them, like agitator. You've got coaches there. What do these terms mean? What's, for example, Professor Nigel Lockett going to be doing as an agitator with your delegates?
Oh, well, there's a good one. He's great, Nigel Lockett. If you've never met him, he's great. He works now with founders. He's always been a founder of his own companies. He set up his own company. So he's a lived experience professor. So not just an academic. He's a real founder. He mentors disruptor founders, those ones that are coming in to disrupt the marketplace in some way. So he's really interesting in his challenge, the quiet challenge of how you're going to get there. What does it need to achieve? How do you deliver that volume to that audience at that time? So he's really going to challenge people's thinking on, what does this founder-led business look like? If there's a generational family firm there, what new markets would they be going into, or should they be going into, or what are they thinking about? How are they doing it? So he'll add a dimension from that founder side of working with businesses that really have got some great ideas to disrupt in the market. What can they do? How can they do it?
How can they get into the market, embed in the market?
Yeah. And what are going to be the challenges that they'll face in there? Yeah. So that's his role really around that.
And again, he'll bring it back to what does that mean as a human to be leading that type of business? Yeah. What pressures does that then put on you? And is your personality right for that type of pressure? Or how do you change in order to do that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's kind of, he takes it from all angles to help you think through where you think you want to be. That will be his role in this. And he may do some mentoring on the program as well. Depending on the audience. Yeah. So we match people to what their need at this moment.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So a brilliant opportunity to sit down with some of these people and get their take and help them guide you towards kind of the conclusions of your own as well, I suppose. Yeah. The other thing I found interesting was you've got Stoked Luke, performance coach and mountain guide. Yeah. There's so many different elements to this, and that's a really interesting one, that people are going to be doing physical exercise activities as well as like the mental fitness stuff as well.
Yeah.
They're not going to be running up Everest.
No. We're going to build in outdoor challenge into it. This part of this thinking from Harvard on leadership fitness is part of that endurance thing. So how do you build up that endurance capacity? And that is really by being challenged in different circumstances. From an academic term, it's very experiential learning led. So we're building skills through experiences. So leading when the mist comes down on the fells, how do you do that? How do you lead in different scenarios that are not typically yours? So we're slightly out of our comfort zone in where are we leading and how are we doing it in different scenarios across the program.
How do you confidently point towards something ahead of you as a team? And that could be pointing towards the top of the hill and saying that's the hill we're going to, but it could be that's the direction we're going in. So it's learning different muscle strengths, and your leadership skills.
And that other capacity of, as a leader, how do you imbue belief in others to follow you? Why would they follow you?
Yeah.
What can you do in that relationship that says, I'm confident that this is the right way forward and this is the right path? Follow me. How do you do that?
And almost more importantly, if you do make a mistake, how do you explain to the people that have followed you, that was a mistake, but this is what we're going to do now?
Yeah. That vulnerability of that didn't work, let's go this way. And it creates that
safe
flexibility.
Space to learn what that feels.
Safe, yeah. So we're challenging people. And the other thing about leadership fitness is knowing what your stress triggers are. We've got lots of information on our watches and rings and all sorts of things that tell us what's making our heart rate spike. But are we aware of that in leadership terms when we're leading our day-to-day job? Very stressful being a leader. So are we aware of those stress triggers and using them in a better way, so that we become aware of it and then we can do something about it. Hence the behavior change over the 10 months. What are we aware of that we could get better at?
Yeah, not avoiding stress, but knowing when it's going to come and how to manage it and then how to decompress afterwards.
Yeah. Because a certain amount of stress is a good thing. Burnout stress is a bad thing. But you can't have no stress or pressure because you're not operating. So there's a certain amount of it that's comfortable and that helps you. Then there's too much. So you're either pulling people down or moving them up, finding the balance really for them. So outdoors and indoors and
inside your head,
multiple angles. Yeah. Those capacities.
I think we've already kind of covered a lot of this with this next question, but what makes Lead It different to other leadership programs and other kind of leadership coaching work you've done in the past?
I think Lead It's different because it is human-centered. It's very much a human thing. And I think that sometimes gets forgotten in a digital age. So it's not saying we're avoiding digital. It's saying, let's embrace that. But what's the human connectedness that needs to always happen within leadership? What are those strengths? And I think looking at the audience of founders and family firms or independently owned businesses behave differently to corporate. So it's deliberately designed for an audience, and it's embracing fitness and capability in a different way.
Yeah. It's allowing people to remain independent, but use some of the fitness methods that the corporates use and applying it to themselves, but keeping their own individual take on leadership.
Yeah.
With better leadership fitness.
Yeah. Yeah. It's certainly not based on theoretical academic models. It's based on real world practice of leading, something about relationships, about legacy, about expectations, identity. These are very different things that we're looking at.
But it will take ideas from.
Yeah. But it takes ideas from the corporate world and says, right, how do we apply that? Harvard's leadership fitness is designed for the corporate world. How are we adapting that into founders and the independent-led businesses that they can benefit from those capacities or ways of thinking? How will it work in my world? So I think it's grounded in their world, really.
Yeah.
And not many programs are.
Leadership it's about your personality, isn't it? And there's these academic models and are really useful, but it's about how people act kind of in the moment. What do you think about the sort of relationship between these frameworks, which are obviously really useful, and how they can be kind of adopted by people day to day?
The frameworks are extremely useful.
Yeah.
They're based on observation. The people in the room that we'll be working with are based on doing all the time. So it's allowing them to see what it looks like from above them, which will hopefully help them to become better leaders.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's it. It's usually everything falls down on the implementation of something. So any change pattern, it's usually because it hasn't worked, because it hasn't been implemented well, because we haven't really taken the time to understand how we can use it. You know, it stays over there in theory, but I don't really understand it. So it's kind of, how do we really implement that? What do we mean by balance from Harvard? How does that work for me? How can I do it? Given my stage of business, you know, where I want to go, what stage I'm at, what my family wants, all the complexity that goes on around. So it's very tailored to you now and where you want to go next.
Yeah.
So it's kind of taking the model and saying, right, we're going to apply it. We're going to actually work with it in real time rather than we're going to write about it. Or talk about it.
It's using all the business models, but making it bespoke to each individual sitting in that room. And because you're working with a group of other businesses, they will help each other.
Yeah.
They will understand what's going on now, not what happened last year or the year before, but what's happening as a leader now in this place.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that adds a whole lot of value.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Well, we believe it does.
We know it does.
And there'll be shared challenges that, you know, people can help each other on.
Yeah. And that's the real benefit. That's what we do in the leader spaces, in the peer groups, is really work on the problem, and we only use open questions on each other to unpick the problem, and then we come up with actions, and then you report back into your peer group. Really, it's not to us as the program designers, it's back to the peer group that you've built a respect and a trust with, that help you move, and of course they become allies forever. You know, you've got a great group of people where you've gone through an experience with, a shared experience with, that stay with you forever. Because you build trust across that program.
We've seen that with various programs over the years, that people have stayed together 20, 30 years, supporting each other.
Yeah, because they get whatever point you were at and where you're progressing to.
Wow, that's brilliant. Yeah, a really fantastic offer there, and a really amazing list of people that are involved and are going to be coaching on the program. So that's great. I'm looking at thomasjardineandco.co.uk, and there's information there. Do you want to let people know, Keith and Jackie, what's the best way to kind of find out more or get in touch with you to speak about this?
Oh, yeah, you can give us a call or email us.
Or come to the Guild.
Or come to the Guild in Carlisle if anybody is there in the region. But this is open to the UK. Really, as long as we can travel to the Halcyon in Ullswater, and who wouldn't want to do that? It's a beautiful retreat in the Lake District. That's where it all kicks off.
So email Thomas Jardine and Co.
Yeah.
The contact details are on the website as well.
Yeah. And our phone numbers are on there too.
Great. And with the email address in the description. Yeah, that was really interesting. Thanks very much, both, and speak to you soon.
Okay. You take care.